I don't know, Charlie Kaufman. It's
Yeah, Kev, give me your initial thoughts. We just finished watching I'm Thinking of Ending Things, the new Charlie Kaufman film on Netflix.
okay. So I really like the technical aspects of it. I think the ambiance overall was engrossing. I was really captured. I was never bored, but at the same time, I think not only did it go on a little long for what it was, especially with the two extraordinarily extended, indulgent scenes in the car where it just turns into Charlie Kaufman's personal. I don't know how much of it is adapted from the novel or not, but either way, it turns into a vehicle for whoever was writing it to vent their complaints about a variety of different topics, important topics, but it just felt less like a film and more like, I don't know if you want to view it through the lens of it's all happening in one guy's head and he's commenting on the themes of, hear something and then it pervades your own opinion and then, there was that one line about how we don't do anything original, we are just, did I actually play it again?
Oh, you want to
Yeah,
watch it again already?
yeah, of course. But yeah, there's that line about how nothing's original and we just steal our opinions from someone else. So then they had that whole argument which reflected that. But I don't know. It felt very Charlie Kaufman. I mean, just the excessively bleak nature of it, and the
Yeah.
the complete derision of the idea that anyone is truly content or happy at all. So I didn't care for that much. It was well made, but
Yeah, it's less the the ridiculous amount of just artsy observation and more the idea that it's artsy observation with this idea that there's no hope in anything. Everyone's just miserable, and and I get that that's the point maybe, but all of his movies just seem to kind of be like that, you know?
it felt very much like he was just using a new setting for treading on old ground. And I mean, this time it was like really, he wasn't holding back at all because it wasn't even much in the way of, not even necessarily plot, because I know something that's supposed to be as surreal as this, it doesn't necessarily have to be as heavy on plot. But it wasn't representing much either. It was just direct. I think these things are horrible, and everything is fake, and nothing is legitimate, and anyone who thinks otherwise is fooling themselves. Like that was repeated several times. The whole
Yeah.
people learn to fool themselves into being happy, and anything else is a lie. And that's one of the reasons why I just could not stand Cynic Go to New York. And I know some people call that movie life affirming, and I'm sure someone will find the same thing here. But I don't know. Unless you see it as some sort of cautionary tale to
Yeah.
appreciate what it is, then I don't know. I just don't see
Life
it.
affirming in what aspect, you know?
Yeah,
Life
I don't know.
sucks. It's affirmed.
I thought it was interesting how. I just wish more actually came of it, because at the end, like you said, what if it's just all happening in his head, and that actually kind of wound up being the case,
Yeah,
which
which
I
I
don't
was half
think.
joking when I said that because it's almost you're trying so hard to be pretentious when you have an idea like that that it's obvious. It's like, oh, what would be what's the artsiest thing I could do? It's all happening in someone's head, but it's like that's so ridiculous and so it becomes obvious. So it's like if I guessed that 10 minutes into the film, it's not really that impactful.
Like the whole extended part at the house, which I thought was tremendous setup, and I was really
Yeah, that was getting me excited, and then it just once they got back in the car, and did we already know that there were not one but two long, extended driving sequences with two characters mumbling about things that lasted for over 20 minutes each.
yeah.
Um, and we're fans of things with long shots. Like, we both loved Hateful Eight, and there's like 40 minutes in that movie when they're just in that carriage going in the snow to a snowy cabin, and it's never boring.
Because it eventually leads to something, whereas the entire purpose of that extended house sequence was to set up the whole. I mean, obviously, this was not the only purpose, but it was to set up the whole thing where we see the initial that you caught on the initials on the janitor thing in the supposedly mysterious basement in the washer, and then we find out, yeah, he was the janitor all along, and the entire payoff is that it was all in his head, and so the end result is that it all builds to more. Everyone is lying to themselves if they think they're happy, and not to mention the incredibly mean-spirited shot at Robert Zemeckis. I don't even. I'm not even
what was with the dig at Robert Zemeckis? I don't understand that.
That was so. I don't know, cheap, low blow, whatever way you want to describe it.
Yeah, I'm interested in if it's just directly related to that thing you read that said where Zemeckis said he didn't care for the French New Wave and he liked the early Hollywood or whatever. It's like, do you think Kaufman took personal offense to that? Like, I've never seen like an independent film where one filmmaker takes not even a subtle dig, a direct dig using his name, using the name Robert Zemeckis as a joke in the movie. I've never seen someone do that.
It wasn't even very funny either. Like,
it was like, rom-coms suck, but it's like
if someone was watching some superbly over-the-top mobster movie, and then they put directed by Martin Scorsese at the end, that would at least be a little funny.
That'd be a little bit funny.
Because
it's weird because Robert Zemeckis isn't even specifically known just for doing romantic comedies. Like, I mean, he made Forrest Gump, and he also made like Polar Express. He's made like, it's not like he's like a one note. He's not a one trick pony who just makes romantic comedies. It's like, I get making a dig more at someone, I guess, if they're a one trick pony kind of thing. But even then,
it would make sense if he was known for doing those like horrible rom-coms where the guy does something ridiculous and then the girl forgives him for it and is totally in love with him. That's not really even his MO. So I'm sure
even then, I still think it'd be kind of a cheap shot. It takes all kinds.
It came off as like bitter and petty and just
it was
MO of this whole movie. So I don't know.
Like, it takes all kinds of movies to make like the whole realm of film enjoyable for everyone. Like, if every movie was like Requiem for a Dream, no one would want to go to the movies. Like, you need levity, you need rom-coms, you need Adam Sandler movies, you need like sillier, lighthearted things to, even stupid stuff to broaden the spectrum. If every movie was a Charlie Kaufman movie, nobody would go to the movies. Average people don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that every time they go to the movies. And average people, well, that sounds pretentious to say average people. The average moviegoer doesn't want to always see that.
I once read the best way to convince someone that life was not worth living. If you wanted to, inherit their money or something, you would just have them watch Thin Ghost New York. And this movie feels very much in the same vein. Like,
I think that movie is more entertaining than this movie, though.
Yeah, but like, it's got the same overarching theme.
The themes are similar.
If you are happy, you are fooling yourself and you're lying.
For sure.
Yeah, so it's a shame because I like a lot about this movie. The setting is fantastic. Like, it was very...
Yeah, like you said, the technical aspects were great. The world building was interesting. And the characters were interesting, too, even though they were intentionally unlikable through a lot of it.
I just wish it had built to something more. I mean, unless the point of every movie is just, look at my central character, this insufferable, antisocial jackass who is doomed to be miserable forever.
Yeah. I almost wish a movie like this took a direction and went even farther with it regardless of what that direction was. Like you could go for like a more lighthearted, like not light. That's a bad word. A more positive sort of culmination, or even if they went for a more negative culmination in the end, it'd be interesting if they went farther with it. Because the movie's sort of just like blah at the end. It's just kind of like, yeah, I guess life's this weird trippy dream and everything sucks, but it doesn't even really drive that home. Like if you're gonna make a dark film, like make a dark film. Don't kind of half-ass a dark film. Like yeah, life's kind of a drag, and I'm sort of just drifting through it, but like it's okay, I guess. Like that's not really anything. Maybe
It,
that's the point. I don't
I feel like
know. Is that a point? Is that a good point to make?
it's kind of something you have to think about more, but after the whole experience of just constant negativity that this movie was, I don't know that I really want to. Yeah, I'm sure it'll pop into my head and whatnot, but
Yeah, like if I rewatched this and analyzed every line of dialogue, I'm sure there's a ton you can get out of it. But it's like, yeah, but do I want to do that? And will I really get that much out of it? Like I'll pick up on references and stuff, but like I think the emotional impact, I think you pretty much get that the first time around.
it's kind of similar. Like people are saying, you have to watch Tenet a second time to really get it, and it's like I really don't want to. So it's not like it was such a phenomenal experience the first time that I'm really raring to get back in there and experience that again, and
Right.
really pick up on all the nuances. I get the general idea, and it's not the sort of thing that I'm going to subject myself to over and over. Maybe if I have a depressive episode and want to feel validated that someone else out there gets how truly stupid and embarrassing and untrue and dumb everything is, and depressing, I should say too, then yeah, I'm sure I would really empathize with this movie. But right now, I wonder what the book is like. I really do, because I wonder how
Yeah,
much.
I don't know. After watching that film, I couldn't even begin to guess what that book was like.
Because like a lot of the complaints or grievances, I guess they have in the movie that they bring up are totally legitimate. Like who could disagree with some of them, or most of them even. But when they're just brought up in this light of two characters who are just constantly at odds with each other, and joy is an illusion, and we are just stumbling through this bleak haze of monotony and misery, and it's just like, okay, I get it. Everything, really, I don't know, because it was not even an intriguing look into the mind of a depressed person, because it really is just misery porn after a
Right.
while.
And it's
And it doesn't.
also so avant-garde in places that you really don't know what's actually happening, so it sort of makes it hard to like be an introspective look at any one person's feelings or thoughts.
And it really didn't go anywhere. Like the extended sequence in the house, I thought was great. It was the bizarre nature of it. You're really on edge. And I don't know if it's because the movie is just so goddamn smart that it pulls out the rug from under you by not having to go anywhere, and that's the genius of it. But
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Like the house sequence was so well set up with the aging and disappearance and the deaths, or in reverse of those with the mother and the father, and it just doesn't go anywhere. Like and the thing with the basement, and I don't know. I thought the mom and dad were easily the most compelling aspects of it,
Yeah.
and they don't go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm not even really sure what he was trying to get at with the idea of like them periodically aging and de-aging. I don't know if I really even understand what he was going for.
I think, like, I remember that line where the young woman is going, um, I don't think, I think that time passes, we are stationary and time passes through us like a wind,
Right.
and I was the wind and I saw your parents aging and de-aging. It's like, okay, I get the idea, but how did that, mean anything? If it's just all, if everything is just so surreal that
Yeah, like why did she feel like that? Why did she feel like her presence was aging them? Like, is it because I don't know. I don't get it.
Interesting idea, but I thought like it was just half baked,
Yeah, I
and
feel
like
like
with everything
yeah.
else, it doesn't go anywhere. So I don't know. I can't, in good conscience, give this movie a bad rating or a bad grade, but I certainly can't give it what I would consider a good one either.
Maybe we got to get Charlie Kaufman on the next episode and have him explain it to us.
We really got to ask him, Chuck. Look,
Chuck,
Chuck, where
Chuck,
is
fill
your
me in on
next?
the ice cream stand. What do you
Chuck, where is
represent?
your next? What genres would you do? Where's your next sci-fi shoot 'em up action thriller starring Bruce Willis and other stars of the '90s?
Maybe The Rock.
That's what we look for, and yeah, that's what we look for in a Charlie Kaufman.
What if The Rock played Lucy in this movie?
That's another thing. Okay, you noticed early on that she was getting a bunch of calls from, because we don't know her name, right? Lucia or Louisa, and then he calls her Amy at one point, but we're gonna stick with Lucy and Louisa because that's what she gets called multiple times. And she has all these calls from herself. Where I don't know, because I feel like
I don't really care for the calls from yourself thing. I feel like it's too heavy-handed.
I don't even know where it's going with. And I know in a movie like this, where if you don't understand something that's supposed to be confusing, then it's just kind of like, oh, well, you just don't get it, and it really is genius, and it's all going over your head. But I just really don't think there's that much to it.
I don't feel like there's anything beyond. It was just like her subconscious, um, self-afflicting thoughts kind of thing. That other movies have done things like that. Charlie Kaufman didn't do that first. I've seen other movies do ideas like that, and I don't know. It just I don't even feel. I don't know. It just was like. And that didn't really go anywhere either. They sort of just dropped that after a while, and then it was like, all right, I guess that's done.
In a sense, it was just like the thoughts of one. Because I don't know if it was just the thoughts of one person over a couple hours. And boy, did they really, really, really drag it out? I think the final runtime of actual footage was like 2 hours 10 minutes. I think like even if you wanted to keep it at the 2 hour mark because that's significant, and you could have definitely chopped it down to around there. Because nothing at the house should have been taken out. That was
the house. I think the house stuff was interesting. It was pretty solid.
But the rest was just gratuitous.
In the movie, I feel like the movie kind of went back downhill once they got back in the car. I got to be real. When they got the house, it felt like it was going towards something. Even if it was going towards something experimental, or it'd be like, all right, at least we're building to something, maybe.
But at least it would have had a direction rather than
just meandering through time and space.
With something like this, I always feel like, is it not having a point the entire point that the film does not have a point, which reflects the reality.
Yeah, life doesn't have a point, man. That's so dark, though.
It feels very much like I'm being told, look, you are fooling yourself if you think there's any significance or happiness to be found in life. And, meanwhile, examine my genius as it unfolds on the screen.
What'd you think about the ending sequence, the last 10 minutes or so that just went? It went 0 to 60 pretty quick. It was a lot of meandering and sitting around in the snow, and then it just suddenly became this like chaotic psychedelic breakdown almost.
Physics, and then breaks out into a musical number.
Well, don't forget the pig too. The animated. Well, there were two animated sequences. Right? There was the animated ice cream parlor sequence, and then the animated pig masking the naked old man's naked body.
Yeah, at least the pig.
I mean, the pigs were like a callback to that early scene, but I don't really know what they were representing except for, I don't know, actually. Misery, death.
Yeah,
no one cares when you... Oh, they did. They froze to death, right? Oh, so did that old man freeze to death? Because the last shot is his car buried in snow like he never got out. So he died just like a pig to the slaughter, Kev.
So wait. So first of all, the pig is telling him how he has to accept being. Someone's got to be a pig with maggots crawling all
Maggots on
over
their
him.
belly.
So
Yeah.
I could
Do they
be
though? Does
having
someone
that
have to be that? Does someone have to be that in society?
uh, and then there was the part. Okay, so let's say that the old man freezes to death in the car. Sure. And
Well, I guess actually, I guess if he left the car, it would still be covered in snow too. So I can't really prove that theory.
yeah, but then there's so what happens to our two main characters? Well, okay,
They get
never mind.
replaced by They get placed.
Is
How do you say that word? Synod. Whatever.
Synecdoche?
They get replaced Synodoche style by actors playing them, and then they have a 10-minute like theater style dance sequence with props and all.
Yeah, so so Jesse Plemons, the main guy, that Jake, then
Jake, yep.
then he's the janitor, so he in theory freezes to death. So was the girl? Okay, maybe
Like
the
I'd imagine
girl.
that ending sequence where he wins that science award that is a dream sequence. That didn't feel real at all.
No, no, especially because he looks so different. Even he's supposed to be older in that, but he still looks very different from the
Yeah, they all
janitor.
look sort of like zombie-like almost. It was sort of weird.
I think that was on purpose. It almost looked animated at times. Well, then there was also what was it? Oh yeah, so he's watching the Robert Zemeckis movie early on, and the main girl in that is named Yvonne, right? I think. And then he or the girl gets called, the young woman, she gets called Yvonne once or twice, and so maybe the whole thing is him watching that Robert Zemeckis movie, and he takes Yvonne, who our main actress is made to look like once during the second car ride, and then so he's extrapolating this whole fantasy with Yvonne out in his own mind, and he's really just alone the entire time.
I wasn't sure if maybe even the main protagonist, what's her name again? Not Lucy, but
Lucy or
Louisa.
Louisa, I think.
Yeah, we'll call her
Credit,
Louisa. I wasn't sure if
credit,
she was
and,
even just a fabrication or not by the end.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
he made up this love for himself, and he's just like this lonely old man who, like,
yeah.
maybe is sort of a creep who like works in a high school. They alluded to that maybe he was like a creep at points too, like a pervert or
Yeah, like
something.
the one shot where he says, I see everyone at school, and I see like their pain and their black aura, and then it had this shot of him like walking through like his point of view, and it was kind of like everyone's looking up at him like, who's this weirdo? Like he's looking down at them, and gave off a very ominous vibe. So I don't know, maybe. She's
I
credited
mean,
as the young woman. Her name is Jessie Buckley. Yeah.
if the whole thing is the old man's like inner fantasy slash delusions, I mean that's an interesting idea, I guess. Kinda. Well, I guess we
I
kind
don't
of earlier said that it's not though. At the same time, right? No,
I
yeah, we
don't
already tackled it that it's sort of stupid.
I don't think it was in his head the whole time idea as a whole, because that just robs the movie of any meaning. Can you
Yeah.
imagine? Like everything in Taxi Driver was just the fantasies of one deluded guy. I mean, interesting, but okay, now it has very little meaning anymore. It's just what one guy was thinking. So
So
yeah,
I mean, a lot of people think the last scene in Taxi Driver is a fantasy scene.
yeah. I mean, if that at least isn't the whole movie though.
Right.
That would just be one scene at least. Yeah, I don't know. I think I got to give Mr. Kaufman something around a C plus here.
A C plus for effort.
Yeah, and I did really like the actual physical viewing experience. Let's say
Right.
actual
It is a captivating film.
and the sound I really like the sound. Like there was this one recurring electronic drone that kind of like kept flitting in and out and like adding to the atmosphere of tension.
Yeah, that was like that. The
That
mother
kind of
was hearing
stayed.
that in her head or whatever, right?
It's like, all right, this is building and building and building, and I don't know if the anti-climax, I guess you could call it, is a sign of intelligent subversion or something, but it certainly was not for me. So,
Yeah, I think we tackled some good points here.
yeah. In conclusion, I need more machine guns and explosions and tits and gratuitous sex scenes in my movies, or else I'm not pleased.
I'll make sure to get you some of those.
I need Samurai Cop, is what I'm saying.
You need Samurai Cop?
Yeah. The greatest bad movie ever made.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's really not worth watching. I kind of regret it, honestly. It's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, it's bad, but it's probably more fun to watch with people, actually.
Usually, like, with really dumb movies like that, I try to watch them in groups. Because alone is just sort of like, ooh, I'm just doing this by myself.
Yeah, it's kind of like, haha, that's pretty funny, but, you know.
There's no one to, like make fun of it with, though, so you're just sort of by yourself. Like, it's almost kind of painful. Like, oh man, if I had someone to bounce off, it'd be great. But it's like I'm just taking this all in by myself, and I can't like express how bad it is really to anyone except me. I guess out loud you could just be like, what? What?
But one final thought for this movie: it's definitely better than Tenet. So I will
Good.
give it.
I don't really have any intention of seeing Tenet.
You've seen Inception, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've seen Tenet.
Cool. The protagonist?
Yeah, okay. The
Dude,
young woman.
Even Charlie Kaufman names his characters, so I mean.
So, okay, I actually think the idea of the character of the young woman in this movie is really smart, considering the whole, or at least it would be really smart if the whole thing where he doesn't know what to call her goes anywhere. Maybe he has dementia, there's Alzheimer's just like the father does in the fantasy, but if he does, how is he able to construct such an elaborate fantasy? Who knows?
It still kind of works though, because even though it doesn't like totally lead anywhere, there's still people in the film still call her by given names. They don't just call her young woman. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, but the idea of like she's actually credited as the young woman, that actually makes sense. Whereas the name, the protagonist or protagonist is just, I think John David Washington is great, but there's this one line in there where he goes, "I'm the protagonist," and I'm just like,
well, he didn't write the line.
No, of course
not. He just took the film.
Chris Nolan, how long have you had to work on this movie? And
maybe he wrote it in like 6 hours, and he was like, good enough.
Yeah, apparently he's been working on this movie for like 5 years. Who knows?
Huh. He probably had names at some point, and then he must have eventually just been like, well, I'm going with the protagonist.
I think the protagonist was supposed to be like very meta and clever, but it just came off as Chris Nolan thinks this is a lot more intelligent than it actually is, kind of like the movie as a whole. So, yeah.